Welcome to Strip Cover Lit, where we squeeze the bigger picture out of literature. I'm Adrian Fort.
And I'm Dalton Gentry.
And we are here for the 7th in a 7-part series.
This is it. Big finale.
Yeah, as we journey through, as we game our way through the Hunger Games.
A full review of Suzanne Collins' The Hunger Games, the final bit of our journey here. Something I think really did surprise us as we got into it a little bit. And I think we're going to give credit where credit's due.
I think it surprised you. I came in open-minded.
Fair.
You came in closed-minded, but you were the one who's read it before. That's strange.
I mentioned many times I enjoyed it. I just don't like the ending.
You like being salty, I think is what it is.
We've established it.
So we're going to have 3 good things, 3 bad things, quotes, literary analysis, rating, and recommendation based on the text by Suzanne Collins. Start with 3 good things. Number 1, this is a rich text full of things to talk about.
Okay.
You seem doubtful. 2, there are memorable characters here. There is a full cast and crew in this book.
Okay.
It's only 320 pages? 374, my fault. It's only 374 pages. But you know probably 10 characters by the time you're done with this.
Know them quite well, too.
Yeah, so that's a feat. That is a feat. And 3, this has a very, very, very solid pace.
Okay. I always get a little concerned when you just like sling number 1. I'm like, oh god, they're the same again. My number 1, the writing in this is surprisingly good. There's some good stuff going on with this, which leads into number 2. Collins is sowing a lot of seeds in this novel. There are a lot of things going on here that could develop into something very interesting. Some of them do develop into something very interesting. But she is very skilled in planting little things in the reader's mind that she comes back to, which is great to do. And finally, number 3, up until the ending of this novel, because I still don't like the ending, it really does keep you in suspense. There are a lot of unexpected things throughout this that I even would surprise anyone, I'd say. I was still surprised when I read this for the first time. I think you got a little bit of surprise as things progressed, and that's a good thing. It is an entertaining read.
Yeah.
Bad things.
3 bad things. Number 1, there's a lot of melodrama here. Which is semi-excusable for a young adult text, but that doesn't take away from the fact that there is a lot of melodrama here.
Okay.
Number 2, the rules of this world are murky.
Okay.
You could throw anything in here, and if anything was thrown in here, would you question it?
No.
Which means that the rules of the world are murky.
We talked about that a little last week, too.
Yeah.
Fair.
With the exception of magic, for example, you could throw anything in here and I wouldn't really question it.
Harry Potter just shows up. The game makers throw old Harry in there. Starts blasting kids. It's fine. It's fine.
And number 3, there's a lot of bland writing here. There are large swaths of this novel which are just words on page. Which is, it's a bad thing, but it does not detract from the novel. There's very little bad writing here.
It's a fair statement, it is. I am still going to stick to my first good point that there is some surprisingly good writing in this. But I will agree with you as well.
There's some surprisingly, I'm not going to argue that, but there's a lot of bland writing.
Yeah. My bad things. Number 1, that ending. I do not like the ending. I will stick fervently to that. It's a bad ending. Number 2, this feels like it is being forced into a YA series. This again kind of couples with that idea of the ending. I think this could have been a great standalone book. I feel like it was forced into becoming a YA series. And number 3, I feel it towards the end of this book, they start to focus a little bit on building a relationship with Peeta and Katniss too much. It is just over the head, constantly being beaten. We could have accomplished more in less.
I think it was played too heavily early.
Okay.
But late in the novel, I think it was just right.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
There was some necessity late in the novel. I'm not arguing that. It just feels like we have an entire part 1 of build-up, an entire part 1 of good old action, and then an entire part 3 of, well, we need to make this work so we can get the next book out.
Yeah.
Anyway, do we have some quotes?
I've got some quotes. On 69, District 2 gets into position to follow them. In no time at all, we were approaching the door, and I can see that between the overcast sky and evening hour, the light is turning gray. The tributes from District 11 are just rolling out when Cinna appears with a lighted torch. Here we go then, he says, and before we can react, he sets our capes on fire. I gasp, waiting for the heat, but there is only a faint tickling sensation. Senna climbs up before us and ignites our headdresses. He lets out a sigh of relief. It works. Then he gently tucks a hand under my chin. Remember, heads high, smiles. They're going to love you. I really think that the humor there works. It is underplayed, understated. And on 347, I slump down to the floor, my face against the door, staring uncomprehendingly at the crystal glass in my hand. Icy cold, filled with orange juice. A straw with a frilly white collar. How wrong it looks in my bloody, filthy hand with its dirt-caked nails and scars. That's an image.
Very fair. From 43. My father was particularly fond of mocking jays. When he went hunting, he would whistle or sing complicated songs to them, and, after a polite pause, they'd always sing back. Not everyone is treated with such respect, but whenever my father sang, all the birds in the area would fall silent and listen. His voice was that beautiful, high and clear, and so filled with life it made you want to laugh and cry at the same time. But I could never bring myself to continue that practice after he was gone. Still, there's something comforting about that little bird. It's like having a little piece of my father with me, protecting me. And from 140, that looks like 148, my apologies.
Yeah, it's a weird,
getting
weird
old.
zeros
My
there.
eyes aren't the same that they used to be.
What was that?
Let me just adjust these glasses here. The more anxious I am to find sleep, the more it eludes me. Finally, I am too restless to even stay in bed. I pace the floor, heart beating too fast, breathing too short. My room feels like a prison cell. If I don't get air soon, I'm going to start to throw things. I run down the hall to the door to the roof. It's not only unlocked, but ajar. Perhaps someone forgot to close it, but it doesn't matter. The energy field enclosing the roof prevents any desperate form of escape, and I'm not looking to escape, only to fill my lungs with the air. I want to see the sky and the moon on the last night, that no one will be hunting me. Very nice. It's a good build-up.
I'll tell you.
We should do an entire video series like this. Statler and Waldorf review books.
We'll just say some mean shit.
Anyway, where do you want to begin with this? I feel like you've got a lot to say about this particular novel.
You know, I had mentioned, I believe, in the very first video in this series, that there was set up the chance for a character arc.
Okay.
That it was strange that Katniss had so little sympathy for her mother and for Haymitch.
Okay.
On 306, I nod, then let the conversation drop. But secretly I'm wondering if Haymitch sobered up long enough to help Peeta and me because he thought we just might have the wits to survive. Maybe he wasn't always a drunk. Maybe, in the beginning, he tried to help the tributes. But then it got unbearable. It must be hell to mentor 2 kids and then watch them die. Year after year after year. I realize that if I get out of here, that will become my job. To mentor the girl from District 12. The idea is so repellent, I thrust it from my mind. So it seems that while and whereas early in the novel, Katniss had a strong distaste for victims, she was not sympathetic.
Okay.
She has developed more of that sense and sensibility of understanding that sometimes people are broken.
Okay. So good character development, you'd say, for sure. Where does that come from?
It comes from the suffering that she goes through in the novel.
That's one of my points. This, at its base level, is a novel of suffering. And anytime you put characters through suffering, they must develop and they must grow. Suzanne Collins does this successfully. In the beginning here, we get a kid who is just trying to protect her sister. She's just trying to do everything she can. Valiant effort, nice and pretty. As she gets through this series here, she has suffered. She has grown. She is realizing what it's like to be Haymitch. She is starting to realize, as you brought forward, what this is going to mean for her life. And we get that hinting notion, that little fleeting notion that maybe winning these games isn't the best of ideas. Because that's a bad life to have to go through, man.
Still life.
It's still life. But is that the life you want?
Yeah, so that's one of the things that, with which we must credit this novel. This is a young adult text that does not say the future is all sunshine and rainbows, and you get to have whatever life you like.
Yes.
It is a young adult text that says sometimes, because the shit's been handed to you, you've got to eat that shit sandwich, and then you've got to live with shit breath.
You put it so eloquently when you put it like that.
I want that on my tombstone.
Is that it?
Yeah.
It's beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. But no, I think that is a great thing here. And granted, this is dystopian fiction. This is dystopian YA. And things aren't going to be sunshine and rainbows in dystopian fiction. This really comes down to the suffering of the character. And I think that's what makes this a good novel. This is a rare glimpse in a YA series where we see a character suffer. Usually there's always some great, end of the rainbow here where things are going to be fine. There's always some hope. But in this, the only hope you have is for a suffering life.
And it's also a passion.
Okay.
Like the passion of the Christ, right? Many times a hero goes through a passion, and that's how they rise into martyr status.
Okay.
This is her passion. This is from whence revolution will grow.
Okay.
This is the rise of a hero.
And that's definitely what we're seeing setting up for the series.
And it's spelled out very well on the page.
It is. It is.
This is, so I think this is what necessitated that ending,
Okay.
where there were two winners. I mean, that was your big gripe, right?
I don't like it. I think this would have functioned a lot better as a standalone novel.
I cannot say because I have not read the other novels.
Okay.
Very rarely do you see pulled off in literature a successful passion, rising, and revolution.
Okay.
If that happens in this series, I will be very interested.
Okay.
I will have to compliment Collins to the nth degree.
Well, damn, we may have to just continue forward with the Hunger Games. We'll see where this goes.
We'll see.
We'll see.
We'll have to put up to vote.
There are some bad things in here, though. I would like to address this. I think throughout this here, there are some...
Throughout this here novel,
there are some very grand missed opportunities. I think there are a lot of things in here that I would have liked to seen expanded upon more. We talked a lot about Haymitch. The character of Haymitch is gorgeous. The idea of the man who has been there, done that, and has lived this life of suffering. I really would have liked to have seen more Haymitch. I really would have liked to see the inner workings of Haymitch.
I don't know. I don't think you need that.
In addition to that, we get the introduction of the Avox, who are there for a purpose. They're showing, the capital is the oppressive government. There's a lot more that could have been played with there.
I think you were falling into the trap of modern day consumption.
Okay.
Like with the Star Wars universe. Well, I want the story of that character, and I want the story of that character. Oh, I want to know where bounty hunters go. I want to know where bounty hunters come from. I want to know Boba Fett's face.
Okay.
I don't think we need all that, especially in a 370-page novel that is setting up a completely different world. I think that this gives us just enough of all the things that we're looking for.
Do you think there's just enough from the Avox?
Yeah, and what more do you want?
I don't know, but they introduced it as such a big deal, thinking she may have known this woman, she was running from the capital, she thought, this was what happened, she understands how it works, and then it's gone.
Yeah, she didn't know her. She had met her.
She had met her.
Yeah.
Fair. There was build up to that. I felt like that needed to go somewhere. That needed to reoccur. It needed to come back a little bit. But I don't know how
well,
it
you
would have
kind
been
of
executed.
I think you get enough because she ends up realizing that yes, she does know her.
Okay.
There's a bit of a payoff there that it's not just some wild fantasy, that it's not a mistaken identity, that it is real, and the Avox remembers her too.
I don't know. I think there could have been more there. Instead of just constantly focusing on this relationship building with Pete and Katniss, we never see a glimpse of any other world beyond what they're in. And granted, this is coming from Katniss's narration, which is fine. It's her point of view. I think this novel would have greatly benefited if we could have seen something from another perspective. Maybe we get Haymitch. Maybe we get Haymitch working. Maybe we get a glimpse of Prim watching the games. Maybe we get something else from this that will add more spice to this, that will better create this world that you're having trouble understanding the rules to. Something more than just what we are receiving from Collins.
I don't know that you're correct on that.
Okay.
I think that I don't know the rules to this world, and that bothers me.
Okay.
Anything that had happened, I would not have really questioned it. However, I don't think that we could have gotten anything from any of the moving parts in this novel that would have expanded on it. In fact, I think we get a little too much from some of them. I think that Katniss is a bit, like I said in the first or second installment of this series, she's a little bit too privy to the goings-on behind the scenes of the Hunger Games.
Okay.
I think that it would have been a better payoff if she was learning all these things. About, for example, the train. She knew all about the train before they got on it.
Okay.
It would have been interesting if she had no idea.
That's fair. One other little bit of a complaint that I have with this is not just the ending overall itself, where, you know, they both sacrifice themselves and it turns out they don't have to because they can both win. It's the last, I'd say chapter 2 chapters. It feels rushed. It feels like the games are over and we're getting ready to go on this winner's circuit and everything. And we get that brilliant moment where Haymitch kind of leans in and says, hey, shit hit the fan. I like this. But at that point, it's just boom, boom, boom. I'm going to tell Peeta what's going on. We're going to wrap this up. It's over. It feels very rushed. And it feels almost like we're told too much. We're not shown anything. We're just given all this information. And here you go. Join us next week on part 2 of the Hunger Games. Here's the information you're going to need. I would have liked to seen either the novel end a little sooner before we received all this. Maybe we end it on Haymitch just saying, hey, shit hit the fan, and we don't know where it's going. Rather than Katniss just saying, here's what's going on, let me tell you the entire story of where we're going in the next novel.
So rushed I can give you. However, I feel that if we don't get everything that we get in those last 2 chapters, it feels incomplete. So there's a difference between rushed and incomplete.
Okay.
We get all the details, we just don't get enough details about the details.
I think Collins does a great job of showing us in this novel. We see what's going on. In the end, she falls trapped to telling us what is going on. It's just a gurgle of information, you know, here we go, let's get it over with. That's what it feels like.
Which is rushed,
yes.
But does it feel incomplete?
It doesn't feel incomplete, not
Would
necessarily.
it feel incomplete with some of that chopped off? If you've already got it rushed, if you're getting less of the rush.
I'm going to say no. I think if we get the warning from Haymitch...
But you wanted more about the Avox girl. You got to make up your mind.
No, I want to go both ends of the spectrum here. I think if we get the warning from Haymitch and we get Katniss's reaction, and we are seeing, and we are starting to allude what's going on, we're starting to piece it together ourselves, that works. Instead, we get this warning, and then Katniss goes to Peeta, gives him the warning, and we wrap everything up, and we know exactly where this next book is going. It feels very serialized.
Okay. I don't know if I agree.
Okay.
Because I feel like this could work as a standalone novel. I feel like I do not have to read the next Hunger Games. But if it were put in front of me, I would not necessarily object.
Okay.
So I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that.
Back and forth on it.
Yeah. I will say that Collins is a very talented writer because she has the gift of being able to make a scene work on 2 levels. Having the outer scene blending with the inner scene.
Okay.
On 307 we get this. They must have fired the cannon during the thunder and we missed it, says Peeta. Are you sure? I mean, it's pouring buckets out there. I don't know how you can see anything, I say. I push him away from the rocks and squint out into the dark, rainy sky. For about 10 seconds, I catch a distorted glimpse of Thresh's picture, and then he's gone. Just like that. Thresh is gone just like that. She barely saw anything and Thresh was gone. That is exactly how the novel worked.
Okay.
That is exactly what happened with Thresh's story.
It is.
And it is exactly what's happening in the scene.
Okay.
Plus it's rainy, which is how they're feeling on the inside, right? Plus they're confused because they must have fired the cannon and we didn't miss it. We missed it because of the thunder. Are you sure? It's pouring buckets. I don't know how you can see anything. This is a scene of confusion.
And it's good on Collins' behalf. She's planting seeds for further readership, where we're starting to get this, idea, because, again, this is geared towards young readers. We're getting this idea that the scene itself can paint a picture. And from that scene, you can get a lot of information as to what's going on. So yeah, I will agree wholeheartedly. I think Collins is a skilled writer in that aspect for sure.
But this is literature right there.
It is.
That is the scene within the scene.
It is. And there's nothing wrong with that. And I think it's interesting. We talked about this quite a bit. This is always just referred to as young adult literature. It's a young reader's book, and we've made that argument quite a bit. I think this has more worth than most of the young adult books that I've read. I honestly do.
Yeah.
I think Collins is a much more skilled writer to just kind of be clumped into this young adult genre. And I'm a little disappointed by that.
Yeah, so this has been a 7-part series, and we have never been at a loss to talk about something literary in any of the videos. In fact, the first video was about an hour long. The second video, I think, was 45 minutes long, and then 30 minutes after that. While I have always made the argument that it is a true testament to intelligence, to literary prowess, to be able to take, I don't know, a Garfield comic and point to literary merit therein, there is something to be said for a book which is just teeming with the stuff and doesn't make you work that hard.
Okay.
Because you don't have to work that hard, it might be argued, oh, well, that's what makes it young adult, you know. But does someone have to work that hard when they look at Shakespeare to find the literary merit? While I'm not arguing that Suzanne Collins is Shakespeare, what I'm saying is it does not have to be digging a hole in the middle of the woods to find the core of a text that makes it literature. We've read some knockers on the channel, haven't we? Some of the heavy hitters. And boy, they make you work to get there.
They do.
You don't have to work that hard to get there, I don't think.
That's a good point.
You're doing your weird Dalton thing.
Am I doing the weird Dalton thing? It's a good point. It is. This is a literary text. There's a lot of things going on here, but it is a very, very approachable literary text. If you are reading this with a literary eye, you will see it off the bat. If you are not, you're still going to pick up on these things. That's a very good point. I think that is where we are finding our success in this novel, our enjoyment from it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good work here for a young adult reader. I wish more young adult texts were like this.
Yeah, with the fact that this is just brimming with the literary stuff we've been talking about, it would be almost impossible for someone to read the entire novel and not pick up on some of it, right?
True.
So that's what makes something like this a great introductory text.
Okay.
To thinking about your series, Reading Literature Like a Professor by Thomas Foster. This is a great text for picking things up like that and starting to sharpen your tools.
That's fair. And if you're approaching it with that sense, that's great. I also think if you're just picking this up because you want to read it, you're going to be entertained by it.
Yeah, it's great pace.
And I think, honestly, nonchalantly, is that the word I'm looking for? No. I don't know.
You haven't finished the sentence. How do I know what word you're looking for?
I don't know. You usually can finish my sentences for me. Subconsciously, that's what I'm looking for. Nonchalantly. If you pick this up and you're just looking to read for enjoyment, subconsciously, you're still going to find things in here. You may not realize it, but because of the writing, it's going to start firing those little cylinders back there for you.
Yeah, so a text like that, the way I refer to it is like panhandling for gold.
Okay.
You sift it all up, and then you just shake out the soot. And gold's gonna rise, right?
Okay.
You will accidentally find the gold as long as you have that soot in there.
Is that really all panning for gold is? Like, why aren't we doing that right now?
Because they found it all.
Oh, okay.
There's no gold left.
That's fair. There's no gold left?
No, there's none.
Okay.
Especially not in California.
So, anything else you want to say about Suzanne Collins' Hunger Games?
I am a bit disappointed in you.
Why?
You didn't want to read this for years.
Yes. Go on.
Why didn't you want to read this?
I don't like the ending.
You don't like the ending?
I don't like the ending.
That much?
I wholeheartedly, that is usually one of my grand complaints with a novel. You have to end a novel well. I don't like a fizzle. I don't like a cop-out. The ending of a novel is big to me. I do not like this ending. And I made this argument before we read it. I said this is a good book if there were different choices made at the end.
Okay. But in totality with this text through a 7-part series, we've probably got 4 to 4.5 hours of footage out of this, haven't we?
We have.
4 to 4.5 hours of talking about this one book. Never ran out of things to say, and you were like, well, you know, I don't know. I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. Okay. I don't want to do it. But everything that I've picked up that you absolutely wholeheartedly wanted to do, I would have rather urinated on.
I know. I've come to the conclusion the way we review books.
I'm going to sneak into your house in the middle of the night and urinate on all of your books.
I won't notice. I've come to the conclusion.
You've got Josh and 4 dogs. You won't notice.
Yeah, Josh does it all the time. It's fair. It's not highlighted.
Marking his territory.
It's Josh.
Yeah.
I've come to the conclusion that if I enjoy a book and I say we should read this, I enjoy it, you will instantly hate it.
So you automatically write it off. It's like
I
a business
don't know.
expense.
Maybe that's what it is. So like if I read a book, I'm like, that's good. I should do this for the channel. Probably shouldn't tell Adrian. All by myself. Anyway, let's wrap this up.
Okay.
Adrian, what would you rate the Hunger Games?
I would give this, and this might sound low because of the praise I've heaped on this novel, I would give this 84 dead kids out of 100.
Okay, I went a little higher than you. I gave it that B average, but I think it's a little bit more than just a standard B. I'll give it 88 districts. I will. I think it's an approachable text. I think there's literary merit in it. It's good for any readership level, honestly. And I think it has quality.
Yeah.
It has worth. What would you suggest if you like the Hunger Games?
So
This was a hard one.
started, like I say, sharpening my tools in a young adult novel class in college. And one of the texts that we read was was from the view of a melodramatic young woman who was put into a rough situation, and it was called Blood and Chocolate, written by Annette Curtis Claus.
Okay.
And I think that if you are enjoying the melodrama of this, that might be something you pick up for fun, because it's not the literary high life, perhaps, that is the Hunger Games.
Okay.
But it is a sloppy little YA melodrama.
Okay. I think I've got 2 suggestions here. One was just me being salty, but that's fine. The good suggestion. If you like the idea of this novel and you want to push your readership a little bit harder but still get that same flavor, The Lottery by Shirley Jackson. A little more difficult, a little quicker.
I figured you were going with Shirley Jackson.
You think so? If you liked the terrible ending of this, well, you might as well just read Romeo and Juliet now, shouldn't you? Because that's what it was.
But it was the anti-Romeo and Juliet.
That was my salt. I just wanted to throw that in there.
What, sprinkle it on top?
Dash of salt.
Okay.
Anyway,
Send us out.
Oh, God.
You do it.
Okay. If you like this kind of thing, make sure you hit the subscribe button down below. Give this video a like as well. We always appreciate this. We've done 7 videos on the Hunger Games now, a full 7-video breakdown. So I hope someone enjoyed the ride at least. Let us know if you did. And if you want to help us create more great content like this here on Strip Cover Lit, there's a link, as always, to our Patreon to be found in the description below.